What's going on? So, I had a little hard time with this whole evolution of man. There's so many holes, and um, there's so many things that don't even add up or even make any sense. And so I thought I'd share with you some of my notes, and you can look all this stuff up. It's pretty crazy. They want you to believe that you know we came out of the water, you know, and we started crawling around on 4 feet and then 2 feet, and then we start walking upright. And they try to show us, different evolutionary skeletons, and there's a lot of stuff missing in those skeletons. Just so you know how to get skeletons and feet tracks, it's difficult. It's very difficult. It's almost a miracle that they get it. And the way they do it, first of all, they have to be in areas where they can be formed. So it's usually jungles don't work, swamps don't work, cold mountaintops don't work. And so you have to have like volcanic ash, and you walk through it, and then more volcanic ash, and it covers it. Or you get eaten by a bear in the volcanic ash, and then it gets covered, and then a flood or mudslide comes down, and that's how they get it, right? And that's how they get skeletons. Now, so they basically think that 4 million years ago is how old the skeletons are. And here's the thing with the skeletons: between 4 and 2 million years ago, the only skeletons are they have two different forms of chimpanzee type skeletons, and they have two types of gorillas. Okay, and the problem is they were upright walkers. Okay, because they saw that. All right, so they're upright walkers, and there's a big difference between humans. Okay, so 6 million years ago, I think they had one of the first skeletons that were found, and I don't think it makes a difference what these names were, but I'm even going to try to pronounce them. But you can look them up. Just look them up. There's names there, okay? And then I'll try one here. A.R. Kadaba. That's one of them. And there's one, two, three, four different ones, okay? 4 million years, there's another one, okay? They're almost the same. A little different, a little bigger, a little wider. 3 million years, okay? 3 million years, they found one, and her name was Lucy. They gave her name. Check it out, Lucy. And Lucy was small, 3.8 foot. She was a short. They found 40% of her bones. They married the rest, so they had 80. But she was also an upright walker, okay? And they call these pre-humans. These are all pre-humans. Now, pre-humans aren't necessarily hominoids nor humans like us, okay? So just they call them pre-humans. And she basically, her head was like a chimp. She didn't have anything with the neck going on, so they couldn't speak. All this is missing. The jaw, nothing like us, okay? But they're very thick bones. So that was 3 million years ago, and there's a whole big thing on Lucy. 2 million years ago, they found that's what they call them, the homos. Then there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 different ones, okay? And again, these were chimp type brains, the heads were nothing like us, okay? I mean, for example, the bones were thicker, okay, than us. The foreheads, there were no foreheads. They had these huge eyebrow ridges. They had huge nostrils. They had night vision. They could see at night. We can't see at night. So try to remember all this stuff. They had big flat nose, okay, where we don't. Huge jaws, okay. They didn't have any of this needed to be able to speak and sing. They could make noises. There was no neck, and there's no in between skeletons between the, I think they're called the astrolipopitheciums. I don't know. Astroliopithecim. And then it went to the homos. The homos, and there's 1, 2, 3, like 6 of them. Okay, there's nothing in between those. Okay, and they're kind of different skulls. Okay, so basically they're telling us, hey, we'll find the skeletons. We'll fit them in between. In the meantime, they want us to believe this stuff. Okay, so today, so it goes from 1 million years ago. You went from chimpanzees and gorillas, and then boom, instantly, instantly it changes, okay, to us. This is about 250,000 years ago. And like Darwin said, hey, don't worry about it. We're waiting. We'll find those bones. We haven't found them yet, okay? And so we have not found one bone in between. So it's like, how do we go from two totally different skeletons? And it looks nice in a paper as you see them growing up, but you need to really dissect it. It's impossible that we jump like that. And so these were primates. They can't modulate. In other words, they can't speak. Okay, they never speak. They can make noise. They're very loud, very strong. I mean, if you took a primate and you put Mike Tyson in the ring, that primate's walking out like in 10 seconds. Mike Tyson's done. He might be missing a few ears. I took that joke from Lloyd Pye. Lloyd Pye died 10 years ago. He was into this whole thing. You could check him out. There's a few videos. He wrote a few books. Lloyd Pye, Lloydpye. And then Zachary Stitchin has a bunch of books. You can look this stuff up. This stuff is pretty blow mind stuff, okay? And, they can't let this stuff out. They can't make this reality, because if they did, religion would be done, okay? Science would be done. And they can't have that happen, because they don't want this information out there. It's there, but they don't tell you everything. And so basically the primates, they're primates, okay? And they totally were not even, I have a few notes, okay? Little notes here. So now, 30,000 years ago. Now, by the way, let me back it up. So there's another one called the Neanderthals, about 1 million years ago. Okay, Neanderthals. And Neanderthals actually, their brains were bigger. They had 15 cc's. We have like 14. So they were smarter than us. They were family oriented. Okay, so it wasn't like you have 30 Neanderthals go hunting. It would just be one-on-one. Whereas the humans, we're like wolves. We pack. And so, and this is probably what happened. So 30,000 years ago, we just appeared. Okay, they're thinking about it actually about 250,000 years ago, but we have fossils, okay, of us, and there's like nothing in between. And then the Neanderthals disappeared. Same time, the boom, gone. We showed up. Like, whoa, what happened? And so it's the thing is 45% of the Earth is bad. We can't live there. Okay. Now Neanderthals don't wear clothes. Their skins can handle hot weather, cold weather. They can handle anything. They're designed for Earth. They're designed to live on this Earth. They are the pre-humans. Okay. They were always the pre-humans. They evolved with the Earth. Okay. And so they were good. But then all of a sudden we showed up and we're like, no, this ain't working. And we chased them. Okay. So, and there were areas, they went to areas where it's hard to get fossils. And these would be areas like jungles, mountaintops, freezing cold areas, swamp areas. And that's about 45% of the Earth. You and I can't live in 45% of the Earth. We don't even travel there. I mean, think of Antarctica for a minute. It's so big, they don't even fly across Antarctica. It's so big that they couldn't have enough fuel to fly across. And if something happened, what would they do? So, and by the way, we're not allowed to go to Antarctica, right? And you see people have sightings all the time. And the sightings that they have, and this is why these are the 4 types of sightings we have. So in North America and Canada, and I actually used to go to camping 30 years ago in my buddy's land in Cambridge, Ohio. And I went with a couple guys, and then I quit going. Well, they would go hunting, and one of the guys said, we got to go back 25, 30 years. He said that he went out, they didn't have a toilet, it was out in the woods. So he went out and he was, pooping on a log. And all of a sudden he heard a little bit of noise, and he said he smelled this horrible stench. And he was like almost about to puke. And he was like sitting down, and he turned around and he saw this thing. And he said, dude, this thing was 8, 9 feet tall. It looked like this big bear, and it stunk so bad. And it didn't look like a bear. And he said he got up and ran through the woods with his pants on his knees. And I think he ripped his pants off of one of his legs and just flew through the woods. Okay. A story that I heard. I also had I had another person, and I recorded this about 25 years ago. I used to have this person living in Washington, and she had a great story too. And her story was that she was taking care of this old woman, and I have this all down. I got to find it. It was an amazing story. And she said she had this old woman. She took care of her. She was a chain smoker. And at the end of the evening, she would sit up on a hill and look down the valley. And she smoked like 10, 20 cigarettes and then head home. She didn't live on the site. And there was always a barn there. And she would hear noises all the time. And she would see things moving in the forest. And she knew this thing was waiting for her to leave because in the barn were hundreds of rats. And apparently, this thing would go there and eat the rats. And she knew that. And he was just waiting for her to leave. And when she would leave, he'd go eat the rats. And so this went on for a while. And then, and I don't mean to get off on a story here, but I got to throw this in because people told me about this. And I got mud on my nose. I was working in the garden and it's raining. Okay, good. And so one day she came and all the rats were dead. And one of the family brothers went in and poisoned the rats. And she said she sat on the hill and never see this thing again. And so we basically push these things, whatever they are, and I'll tell you what they are in a second, into these bad areas where we don't even go. And there's two ways. You have upper mountains and lower mountains. So in America, we have what's called the Sasquatches and the Bigfoots, okay? We don't see them. And by the way, their brains are bigger than ours. So they have 15 cc's. We only have 14. And here's the thing. We don't use 10% of our brain. We're pretty stupid and how much our brain we actually use. We should be much smarter with what we have up in here. So these guys have 15. So they're not stupid, all right? And then in the lower mountain is the lower parts of the mountain. That's where they hang out. Upper parts of the mountains and colder areas, they have these things called Yetis, okay? And that's where they get that Christmas abominable snow monster. That's where they get that from. They're not making this up. People have seen these things. Then if you go to Russia, and there's a story, and you can look this up, and her name was Zana. They actually found found one, and she lived with them in a village. We'll get to that story in a minute. You can look this up. It's crazy. It's real. And those were called the Almastay, Almasty. Okay, those were in Russia, and then there was a couple other ones that were in the jungles, and there was the Yetis were 300 pounds. Okay, 6 foot tall. The Sasquatches, Bigfoots were 900 pounds, or 1,200 pounds, or 9 foot tall. And then the ones in Russia were like 6 feet tall, 300 pounds. And then the ones, the Agawis, which they find people see them in jungles, are much smaller, about 200 pounds. Okay, and they have thousands of sightings. Okay, I don't think all these people are making all this up. All right, now there are people, the people on TV with the footprints. These things walk completely different. Our feet, the human feet, are totally designed wrong. Like when we walk, our heel hits first, and we have arches, and then we kind of roll it, and then we end up on the toe, while our small toes are lifting up. Okay, and so that's how we walk, and the way we walk destroys our bodies. I mean, think about it. We can't even walk right. Our knees go out, our hips go out, and we're just not walking right. Whereas these are much heavier units, okay? And they're hominoids is what they're called. Hominoids, I don't know, however you want to say it. Hominoids, they don't walk like that. They basically don't have an arch in their foot. It's 100% bearing. And so when you see these people making up these fake steps of Bigfoots, you could tell they're fake because they're making them like us. They don't walk like that. Their foot are totally different the way they walk. And so, they walk right. They walk properly because they're really from the earth. They are the pre-humans. They were always here. They're the ones evolved, okay? And so we walk bad. And so when you look at the footprints, you could also look this stuff up and study the footprints. And there's, like I said, you go to Lloyd Pye, there's 8 books stitching. There's got 8 books on some of this stuff. And we'll get into some of that. That's the crazy stuff. And that's the stuff that is, I don't know why they don't teach people this, but I'll talk about it. So they walk differently, okay? And the Neanderthals are bigger and smarter, and they're put in areas where we don't go. So it's not like we're going to see them, down the street, okay? And so basically we don't belong on this planet. Okay, think about this. If we were on this planet from day one, do you think we'd have to wear clothes? Do you think we would be all different colors for we reflect differently? Do we think we'd have to wear shoes? Wouldn't our feet be a lot stronger? I mean, you can't walk on sand at 110 degrees, and you can't walk in Alaska without a coat. Okay, these guys can because they have the skin, and and they've had sightings. So one of the sightings, it's called. You can look at this up, and they try to make the hoax film. It was called the Patterson film, and that was the famous film of Bigfoot walking. And you know what? When that Bigfoot turns her head, and the way her skin moves, and she has breasts, they kind of jiggle. It's not a suit, man. It's like no way. It's impossible for that to happen. Plus the footprints exactly are completely different. So the guy would have had to weigh 1,000 when they went to her footprints. This is the Patterson film. They're 1 inch down into the ground, whereas a regular 250-pound man walking would be 1/4 of an inch. So this thing had to weigh 900 pounds. So you're going to make this 9-foot thing, 8-foot thing, weigh 900 pounds, extend the arms, glue the skin on, and try to make it fake. Now it was real. Okay, it was very real. And so the only thing a hoax about that film is the film. They said it was a hoax. Now think about this for a minute. You're like, well, how come we can't see these things walking around? You know why we can't see them? Think about this. For a long time, they said we had a panda, but we never seen a panda. They're extinct. They were extinct for years and years, but they had records of them, right? And then all of a sudden, somebody came out of the forest with a panda, even though they said it was extinct for decades and decades because they couldn't find one. Okay, and then pandas are pretty stupid. They eat bamboos, and now they're so dumb they can't even reproduce in zoos. Okay, and so yeah, there could be these things are out there. Okay, just because you don't see them don't mean they don't exist. So the Patterson film was real. Okay, and you could check into that whole Patterson film and research that. Okay, research the tracks, research how people walk, research how our feet walk, and you'll be like scratching your head, like, oh man, something going on here, something totally going on here. And so then this is real. This is the guy. He shot one. Okay. And it was called the Minnesota Iceman. You can look this up. He was traveling around America until the 50s, and he froze this thing, and you could see he shot him twice, and you could see where those bullets entered and went through his head and all that. And he went around like charge you $1 to go and see this thing, and this was real. I mean, it went on for 10 or 20 years, okay? And he had a freezer, he lugged it around, and it was called the Minnesota Iceman in 1967, okay? Now, I'm just giving you a couple examples of these hominoids, which came from the Neanderthals, which are the real pre-man. And then we're going to talk about us, which is completely insane. Us, how we got here. How we got here. So let's go back. Xana, they found her, and she was smaller. Remember I told you the Russian ones were called Almasta, Almasty, okay? And she was 300 pounds, like 5-6 feet. And she basically was taken into a village. There's books on this. In 1850, okay? She gave birth 8 times. And when she was taken to the village, the men would do things, okay? They would impregnate her because apparently back then they did that. She was also the sex slave. And she was a slave of the village. She got their water. She carried the wood because she was so strong. Her bones were bigger. I told you all the things that she could take the whole village down. That's how strong she was. But she could listen because she had a brain and she was smart. She couldn't talk, but she could understand. So she had birth. Her first 4 babies, she would naturally run down the stream. It was a cold area, this town. You could look it up. And the babies would die because they're hybrids. They're partially human. They're hybrids. And so they're like, wait a minute. We're not going to let her kill any more of these things. So the next 4 babies she had, the villagers took the babies. Okay? And they raised them. And guess what? They raised them. They all became citizens of Russia and had families. They weren't human, okay? And the thing is, when they, this was in 1850, and she died in 1890. She was buried. It was kind of a religious town, so they didn't mark the stone, so they didn't know where she was buried. But they knew in the 19, I think, I don't know what year it is. You have to look it up, 1950 or something. They're like, we got to look this up. There's something up with this. But they didn't know that one of her sons, his name was, um, hmm, okay, I'll find his name in a minute. My notes are really sloppy. And so she had four children who became big. They were a little dark skinned. They had apparently average intelligence. They weren't brilliant, but they were able to speak. So somehow that hybrid they mixed them. Okay, but they said they were really ugly. I mean, as ugly as you could imagine. And there's photos of these people. Okay, you could look them up, and there's four of them. Okay, and they had families. They weren't human. They're half hominoid, half Russian, I guess. Okay, and the youngest son, oh, his name was Vit. And when he died, they basically knew where he was buried, so they exhumed his body, and that's what they found. They found all the stuff we talked about earlier. Okay, and he had a bigger brain. He had 15 cc's. Okay, and he was Neanderthal. Okay, and so you got to think about this. Okay, they have human fossils, like I said, 30,000, but they're saying 120,000 years ago to 30,000 years is where we just showed up, and there's no in between fossils that go from pre-human, which were the kind of like chimpanzees and gorillas, the all the homos. Okay, there's homo. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce them. Okay, you can look all that up. To our brain, nothing in between. It's impossible. Okay, impossible. And so now, and this is we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, so then the Sumerians, okay, 6,000 years ago, these guys are smart. They built cities, roads. They went into the water. They made money. They had laws. Okay, 6,000 years ago, and there's all these things that they built. Okay, and we had pyramids. We had pyramids. Actually, Stonehenge. Okay, there's pyramids underwater. There's one in Antarctica now. There's one in South America, and they got names. There's like 24 unexplainable, huge construction projects that man today can't duplicate. So you got to think about this. Okay, and who were they? Okay, now they're finding big skeletons of people all of a sudden. All right, and we're going to get to this. We're going to get to it. The Anunnaki. Okay, so the Sumerians, who were they really? Okay, who were they really? They were smart, and what was crazy about them is they just showed up. Okay, I think it was. I'm sorry, not 6,000 years ago. I think it was here 6,000. They showed up out of nowhere. Then they had written books, and they made these cylinder seals. We'll talk about those in a second. And they disappeared. Boom, gone. Where'd they go? Okay. And so when you look at these seals, okay, we found these seals. We have 5,000 of them. They're basically plates with carvings on them. They tell a story. And one of them is called the plow. It's a famous one. And when you look at this plow, and they'll have two types of people, one with horns and without. And the ones with the horns is like the God. Who's that? And the one without is us. Okay, and that is what we call the they call it the God. Okay, they both were wearing helmets. And in this particular one, you also had the sun. And what was crazy about the sun is it had all our planets plus 2. All right. And this is for 2,500 years ago. Okay. And you can see the planets, they're all the right sizes. Okay. The only problem is we didn't find Uranus until 1781. We didn't find Neptune until 1840. We didn't find Pluto until 1930. Okay. And the only reason we found those is because we had telescopes. These things were already in their drawings. Okay. Now, the two extra planets. Okay. Now, so what happened was, and there's 8 books on this. You got to check it out. Zachariah Stitchin. Okay. And they're called the Earth Chronicles. Okay. And there's a bunch of stuff. You can read it if you're interested. It's totally insane how the solar system could have actually how these things make sense. So basically, you'd have your Mercury, Venus, Mars, and then Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and they would go one way around the sun. Okay, then there's another planet, and that was called Tiamat, Tiamat. Okay, Tiamat, Tiamat, and then there was another planet called Nibiru. Now Nibiru, look it up. Nibiru has I think it's every 36,000 years it takes to come around the Earth. And so what happened was when you look at Earth and you take the water out of it, it looks like a rock that exploded 50,000 times. And so what happened was, according to some of these chronicles, and it makes a lot of sense, what happened was 4 billion years ago, they said the Earth was formed 4 billion years ago, right? Well, there was a collision between Tiamat and Nibiru. Nibiru's huge. So Nibiru probably kept going. He probably had a couple dents, okay? But Tiamat just got whacked. And a lot of that just dissipated. But when that collision occurred, Tiamat got water and some other stuff. And that's where we get this 4 billion years ago, where the Earth was formed, okay? I mean, according to this reading. And so then that water, and millions and millions, 4 billion years. You have any clue how long that is? It takes a lot of things happen in 4 billion years, okay? And so check it out. Zachariah Stitchin said that when he saw these writings and these hieroglyphics and these plates, he says, where did this myth come from? And he's like, well, a myth usually was history. History, then you got myths and myths and myths and myths. So he knew that this was, and he wrote books on this, okay? So there was a collision, and Nibiru collided with Tiamat, and that's where we got Earth, okay? And it wasn't round. You could look at it. They take the water out. It's totally insane. So these cylindrical seals show these stars, not stars, but these planets 4,000 years before we could actually see them. So think about, how do they know that? And these were the Sumerians, which were really the Anunnaki. Now, why did the Anunnaki come to Earth? Now this gets crazy, okay? Now you got to think about it. Let's just go today. What are the patents we have today? Today we have patents. Bill Gates has got patents on upper atmosphere aerosol injections, where they're going to take sulfur and throw it in the sky way up there, and then that's going to reflect the sun, so we can save our planet. Okay, there's a Climate Viewer has history on this stuff going back 100 years. There's thousands of patents on how to do this. The jet fuels that we use today have barium, aluminum, and magnesium, and these things are particles that create clouds, and they brighten. Why do we have dimming of the sky, cloud brightening? Half the ski slopes that you ski on the west coast of America, all that snow is made by cloud seeding. They have these are ground seeders. They shoot up above the mountains. Okay, you can look it up, man. I'm not making this up. There's thousands of these things. I mean, the Chinese Olympics didn't want to spend money on the stadium, and so to put a roof on it. So what do? They aerosoled the sky so it wouldn't rain. Okay, they tell you exactly how they do. Look it up. It's not like CNN's going to put it out there. You got to find this stuff, and so look this stuff up. So if we're doing this now, we're putting stuff into our sky to save us. Now let's get to the Earth. So these guys, they come to Earth, and what do they come here for? Mine. Okay, and there's all kind of stories about we were initially slaves that mined for gold. I mean, gold is a metal, just like aluminum oxide, just like strontium and barium that we have in jet fuels that we use for atmospheric conditions. We put them in sounding rockets. We shoot these things up above areas so like tornadoes don't hit nuclear power plants. I mean, this is going on, folks. It's going on. It's very easy to do. We use ionic heaters. We use lasers. We use Doppler. There's 10 different ways. We use dirt. We use ship tracks. We use bunker fuel. Look it up, man. It's there. It's all there. The patents are there. They're doing it. They've been doing it. So why wouldn't the aliens do it? Okay, aliens will come Anunnaki. So they came here to get the gold because they needed gold for their atmosphere. Same kind of thing. Okay, and where's the gold? Where's it all going? I mean, when I was a kid, I went to Fort Knox and I saw the gold. And they showed pictures of gold all over. Now, have you ever seen any gold? All you see is we buy gold, we buy gold, we buy gold for cash. Big cash for gold. And so everyone's selling all their gold. Are you guys buying gold? Yeah, oh yeah, oh you're investing in gold, you're buying paper gold, you're calling your stockbroker, yeah, I'll have this much. Are you going to the store and getting yourself a pound of gold? I don't think so. And if you do, that you go to a coin shop and put 10 grand on a table. I say I want 10,000 bucks worth of gold. They're gonna laugh at you like, we ain't got that here. Where are they selling their gold to? Where's it going? I don't know where that gold's going. Okay, it's got to be going somewhere. But we're not. This video isn't about conspiracies and crazy shit. Okay, the bottom line is, where's it going? I don't see it. We're all selling it. We're broke, and we're trading it in for money. Okay, so they made this. Now, how do they make us? Well, that's pretty easy. I mean, we could take. There's 20 amino acids in every single DNA on this planet. So just as many for a pig, for a plant, for a human. And what are we doing? We're modifying them. We're making GMO. How are we doing that? We're taking fish and mixing them with plants. And, we're hybriding things. And so we're doing this now. Okay, we are doing this now. And then once in a while, you hear, oh, we found this weird ant, this swimming fishy thing with legs. They probably did. It was probably just a bad deal. Okay, somebody did this in the laboratory. So they genetically had to find somebody, engineered humans, because they needed somebody to mine the gold. And what they did, what's crazy is, and I'm not going to do that in this video because I got to read a couple of books. I'll do it, and maybe in a couple of months I'll update this video with the DNA and how screwed up our DNA is. But when you look at our DNA, it's a mistake. There's so many mistakes in that DNA. I mean, even the chromosomes, like for example, our primitive man, the primitive man had 48 chromosomes. Okay, that's the pre-man that they have supposedly, the skeletons in all the museums. And not the Anunnaki, the Bigfoots, we would have given the Scots, these primates. They came from primates, and the hominoids. That's what they're called. They have 46, and we have 46. But when you look at it, the sperm has 24, the egg has 23. There's one extra one, and all of a sudden one's fused. And so when you get into this whole DNA thing, you could tell that it's all messed up. So somebody was playing with it. Somebody made us. And here's another problem. The problem is that we only use 10% of our brain. Why? Well, if you wanted to create a slave, and this was in Africa where this all happened, to mine gold, you're not going to make them smart. You're going to make them just enough to survive and live, to mine. You're not going to make them as smart as you. So you can imagine how smart the Anunnaki were. Remember the Anunnaki, maybe the Sumerians, the ones that built pyramids that we can't figure out how they built. There's so much stuff out there. There's like 12, 24 different construction sites or construction that we can't even understand. We couldn't even do it with lasers, okay? And so if you're an Anunnaki, you're not going to go dig for gold. You're going to make a slave. And so if you make a slave, you're not going to make them that smart. So we are only using 10% of our brain. We could be a lot smarter. Now, so think about this, okay? Think about this for a minute. If the Neanderthal, pre-man, the hominoid, which is the people we kicked out of that lived here, okay, they're always been here, that walk around naked, that got fur, that are heavy, that walk correctly, that can live anywhere, that live as families, but not. What if we came down here, okay, to mine gold? We were made to mine gold for the Anunnaki, and I'm not going to say. I'm going to guess they're from Nibiru. Okay, the next time they're coming around is in 1,800 years. So we have a little bit of time before that planet comes back around. All right, and I'm sure I'm going to do a little bit more research on it. I actually stopped at that point, and so. They were the humans. They were the ones that were part of this planet. They were the ones that evolved, not us. We showed up out of nowhere. They threw our skeleton into this whole mix with a bunch of monkeys and apes. and the homos, okay? And there's about a bunch of homos here. Homo, I don't think I even try to, I'm not really good at reading big words because I'm really sloppy when I write. And so after I write it, I could barely read my own writing. And so we're not in the mix. Our skulls don't even, there's no progression. It's like friggin' possible. Impossible. And so if you want to look at some older videos, there is one nice video where it's called Lloyd. You got to look up Lloyd Pie, P-O-I-E. Everything you know is wrong. And I remember I've been doing this, studying this weird stuff for over 25 years. And I watched his video. I was watching him for at least 20 years. He used to go around and do seminars, this guy. And these videos are over 10 years old. Okay. And he's got some crazy ones. You need to do this one before you watch like the Star Child videos and, that stuff. I mean, you got to do the baby steps first. And so he died of cancer. Cancer. Everybody that I've been watching on YouTube for the last 20 years, they're all dead. Most of them are dead. At least 10 or 12 of them that I've been listening to, they're dead. I mean, if they were talking about Agenda 21, she's dead. I mean, the CIA, Gunnarsson, all those people, they're dead. I mean, maybe I'll do a video of all the dead people that I used to listen to and what they used to talk about. They all they get shot, cancer, whatever. So check it out, Lloyd Pye, and then Zachary Stitchin. Check that out. And so I guess we're going to end this, say that Bigfoot, probably real. You may not see him because he's smarter than you. You're only using 10% of your brain, and you got to wear clothes, and he don't. Think about that. Hey, thanks for coming on. Please rate and subscribe. Also, I've been doing most of my videos, I'm doing live now because I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to do my little video, think of something, and go live. And hopefully I get it all. I probably missed a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to spend any time right now on editing because I don't make any money. And sometimes they take my stuff down. So it's not worth my time. They are the live section. So I've got videos, I got shorts, and I got live. So these are all the ones I'm going to be doing this year live. So you want to see some crazy stuff, go to those. I'm going to try to do one every couple of days. And I have if you're one of my clients as a home inspector, yes, I have that service across the country. Just Google Clevelandmarko, M-E-R-K-O, with a question. I will solve your house problem within 20 minutes. There's a small fee. I have a book coming out next year. Oh, it's going to be a great book. It's not about this stuff. The book is about your house and what's going on to us in our own homes. And I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag just yet because I'm still working on a manuscript, but it'll be out. And hopefully, if you watch this video, 2-3 years, I'll put a link down below to get the book. So check it out. Hey, thanks for coming on.